Sorry about the ending of the last video, but an unexpected person entered my house. It was my husband. I didn't expect him. He was at work. I was just getting to Dimension 2, and I was saying, generally speaking, most of you won't be able to find this class isn't designed for you to be able to talk about uh, Dimension 2. I mean, you do write about your beliefs and what you think when you construct arguments. And so Dimension 2, of course, is about the need to express one's own ideas, even if those ideas are in the minority or question an established way of thinking. um, this could also have to do with even negative feelings like fears, anxiety, insecurity, or apprehension about sharing your own views. As we discussed in the in-class sessions, maybe you don't want to share your own view because you're worried about that people are going to judge you. You're scared of how people might respond. You're anxious about maybe being ridiculed or maybe even ostracized. But you didn't really have an example or an assignment that would apply to any such experience. So that's not really, this is not really a dimension you can talk about. The only exception could be if you were in class on Thursday or Friday, week 13 on campus, and doing the live readings of your responses to your peers. So if you were in class Thursday or Friday and you got to participate in the peer activity, peer-to-peer interactions, then 2 times you had to read your response to a topic about looting and protesters and the morality of it in some way, or a business owner who experienced it. You had to read your response out loud to 2 other peers, one at a time. So you might be able to make Dimension 2 work for you if you want to focus on on that instance. So you could talk about, and again, I know that maybe you're doing it for a grade or for extra credit or to get, waived from writing in the online discussion board. That said, if you didn't have enough intellectual courage to actually read your views out loud and then discuss how your views compare and contrast with somebody else's, you could have refused to do so. So you had to still have some level of intellectual courage, even if you were doing it for a grade, even if you were doing it to get out of another assignment. You still had to have enough intellectual courage to work through any fears, anxieties, insecurities, or apprehensions you might have had about not only reading your view out loud to another peer twice, especially since you didn't know beforehand whether or not they were going to agree or disagree with you, right? Especially since for all you know, they were, their own views as you were reading them. Maybe they were questioning your views as you read them. Maybe they did have a challenge for them or whatnot. So, like I said, if you were in class Thursday or Friday during week 13 and you participated in the activity and you read your views out loud to another peer twice, then you can probably make Dimension 2 of intellectual courage work. Just make sure that whatever dimension you're focused on at a given time, that you start off with this definition, that you do pull from these words into your discussion, embedding keywords and phrases from in here, and Dimension 1 or Dimension 2, or maybe some of you can apply points from both of these to discuss how you did or did not reflect intellectual courage in any of the scenarios or context of learning or completing an assignment or doing a classroom activity that I have discussed thus far. Again, I want to point out that you can talk about how, you reflected intellectual courage sometimes, and then maybe point to a time that you did, describe the context, give lots of details, be exact, and then you could talk about a time when you didn't. If you think you always reflected it during specific kinds of activities, like responding to peer threads, you could focus on some examples of when that was the case, giving some context and details about the topic, what your peer said, what you said, just the gist. You can, or if you want to, you can focus on one particular experience, like the peer interactions in the classroom, and you can go more in depth into that one experience. And keep in mind that, the way that you talk about not reflecting something is, instead of saying, well, I I was aware of the need and ability to face X. You could say things like, well, I was aware of the need to face the ideas of my peers, but I wasn't able to. But I don't think any of you actually did not reflect intellectual courage. You can talk about how it was a struggle for you to reflect intellectual courage. So you could say, well, I did reflect intellectual courage, but it was a struggle. Or you could even talk about how it was easy for you to reflect intellectual courage and why. Or you can focus on, how even though at first you didn't have intellectual courage when it came to an assignment, you worked through a fear or anxiety, insecurity, or apprehension either in facing and fairly addressing an idea, right? Or in sharing your own point of view. So really, intellectual courage is about working through some set of emotions. These while completing a thinking or learning activity, right, in class or online.